All right, guys. So, in this edition of Cuckoo for Cocoa Puff World, we have to go out to New York City, right? Liberal, progressive wasteland, right? I would say Wonderland, but I would be sarcastic to be more accurate. It is a wasteland, right? And they're paying out $1.8 billion over an old racist teaching exam that blacks and Hispanics performed poorly, right? And you have blacks that are receiving multi-million-dollar checks for failing this test because allegedly this test was racist. Okay, you had people like this guy receive $1 million payout from the city for failing a test. I'm not joking. That's actually what happened. Take a look.
And they knew I wasn't taking them serious because I just wasn't taking them serious. You know, would you send me letters and tell me about lawsuit? Because I know lawsuit either they go through or they won't go through. You know, from reading, hearing news and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I know a couple of people that had well, not in education, but they went through lawsuits and they didn't win or anything like that. So to me, it's just like fabric. You know, but it's when I finally got it in my head, they kept pushing and kept explaining things piece by piece until I started getting it in my head and just listened to them, and it went from there.
Okay.
But still today, I don't really believe it. But you know, and yesterday we stayed on the phone for a long time trying to convince me that it's real, it's no game, it's no you know, falsehood and all that stuff. But it's not. I'm a normal person. I had to struggle for money.
Yeah, so this guy is getting $2 million of a $1.8 billion jackpot that is being paid out to teachers who failed a quote-unquote racist test, right? $2 million for failing a test because allegedly the test is racist. Incredible stuff, right? This is the world that we're living in. So I want to talk about this because stories like this really kind of irk my nerves, okay? It's just more evidence to suggest that, again, these people really do believe that black folks, Hispanic folks are dumb and that they can't perform at the same level as whites, okay? Because, you know, apparently black people, Hispanic people, they passed at a lower rate, not because, I don't know, maybe they just didn't study hard enough or maybe there's some other factors that go along with this. No. The test was racist, right? The test was racist. So let's read about this. New York City will pay nearly $2 billion to black and Hispanic people who wanted to become teachers but failed the exam, settling a lawsuit that alleged that the disparate passage rates show that the test was racist. Some individuals who never worked as teachers will get more than $1 million each and could even get pensions, which will inflate the cost well beyond $1.8 billion, the New York Post reported. The Post interviewed 64-year-old Herman Grimm, who will be paid $2,055,383 after failing the test a lot. He could not provide any examples of how the questions were racist. Of course, he couldn't provide any examples out of the questions on the test were racist, okay? Because the test is not racist, okay? The test is not racist. One anonymous Brooklyn principal told the Post the city was, quote, crazy to settle the case because, quote, the standards are the standards to hire people who are not qualified and change the requirements because a certain group didn't pass the test is BS. The settlement concerns the liberal arts and sciences test, which prospective teachers took between 1993 and 1995. More than 90% of whites passed the test, while only 53% of blacks and even fewer Hispanics did. But the idea that those statistics prove that the test was racist rather than properly reflecting knowledge levels is undercut by the results of the teaching exams used since. Most states use an exam called Praxis 2 credential their teachers. According to a 2011 study co-written by the National Education Association Teaching Union, practice results were similar to the New York City test. Quote, the largest differences exist for African American test takers with passing rates that are lower than white test takers by 35% or more, the NEA study found. Yeah, so again, this is what we're talking about. And not only do you see this when it comes to these teaching examination tests or whatever, right? You see this across the board when it comes to standardized tests, whether there's SATs, ACTs, the bar, the MCAT, right? You know, any of these tests that are used, these standardized tests that are used to credential people to go into certain fields, it seems that, you know, black people just tend to not perform as well as others. And we're going to talk about some of the reasons why, okay, in a minute. But I just want to make sure you guys understand exactly what's going on with this specific situation before I really talk about this. The NEA said that because practice is also racist, but its own study did not support that. According to the book, quote, Race to the Bottom, Uncovering the Secret Forces Destroying American Education. The results from our analysis were consistent with results from similar tests of academic skills, such as the SAT and ACT. That is, we found significant differences in average scores between test takers of different racial ethnic subgroups, the study said. The teaching exam also correlated with GPA, where blacks tended to have lower GPAs, as well as teaching exam scores. Nonetheless, by 2017, 12 states, including New York, had moved to a more subjective test called EdTPA that was designed to address claims that other tests didn't actually identify who would be good in the classroom and allow people to submit videos of themselves teaching. But in New York State, black prospective teachers failed the EdTPA at nearly twice the rate of blacks and Hispanics, the book found. Yeah. So again, it doesn't matter what the standardized test is. Blacks and Hispanics are just failing the test, right? So are just standardized tests in general, or just tests, period, are tests racist now, right? Because that's the only conclusion I can come to based off the woke revolutionaries and their logic, okay? Which is that if blacks and Hispanics fail at a higher rate than whites, then it must be racism. It can't be something else, right? Has to be racism. Quote, in 2017, New York State scrapped its requirements that teachers must pass a literary test because 56% of Hispanic test takers and 41% of black test takers passed it on the first try, compared to 64% of white candidates, the book said. Yeah, so again, if you guys are wondering why our students are dumb, right, it's because our teachers are also dumb as well too, okay? They're lowering the standards for teachers to become teachers, and then they're wondering why our kids are so stupid. Is because the teachers are stupid too, right? So you got a whole bunch of stupid people in what is supposed to be an academic and education facility. Again, this is why our education system in America is an absolute disaster. It's a joke compared to some of our competitors overseas, particularly in East Asia, right? We're failing. Okay, we're falling behind because we're continuing to lower the standards because of race. You notice how Asians don't seem to have this problem, right? Asians don't seem to have a problem with standardized tests. Well, why is that? It's because Asians study more than any other group of people. They study an hour or more per day, and they spend more time on educational activities, significantly more time on educational activities than black students, okay, and other students. And that's why Asians don't have this problem. They don't have a problem with standardized tests because they study, right? They study for the test. Isn't it amazing how Asians seem to be immune from systemic racism? Okay, the systemic racism that seems to be keeping blacks and Hispanics behind, Asians are able to overcome it, okay? In fact, they perform better than whites do, right? It's simply because of study habits and how much they value education. If black people did the same thing, if Hispanic people did the same thing, I'm pretty sure you would get the same results. How do I know this? Well, the reason why I know this is from my own personal experience. I'm going to tell you guys a couple stories that I want to share because I spent all my life taking tests, okay? I went to college, you know, and also in order to work in financial services, I had to take tests in order to get a job, right? So I know a lot about taking tests, okay? And I'll tell you guys a couple stories that really has solidified my views when it comes to so-called standardized tests and tests in general. Because for me personally, success when it comes to taking a test directly correlated to how much time I spent studying. Okay, if I didn't study, I didn't do well. However, if I study, if I actually put in the work, I did extremely well. For example, my junior year in college. This was the year that I wanted to turn around my academic career at the school that I went to. And I was taking a corporate finance class the fall of my junior year. And I was determined to get an A in that class because I said, you know what, I'm going to go into finance, okay? And I want to prove that I can compete with everybody else, right? So I was like, you know what, I'm going to get an A in this class. I'm going to study hard. I'm going to do everything that I need to do in order to prove to myself that I am cut out for this, right? I'm just as smart as everybody else, okay? So what I did is that I started studying for the exams literally 3 or 4 weeks before the actual exam, okay? I didn't wait till the night before, okay? I did all the homework. I did everything I could in order to make a good grade in that class, okay? And when it came time to take the midterm, okay, I was actually studying with an Asian guy. I think maybe the last couple days leading up to the exam, I studied with an Asian guy. I had no clue how much he actually studied before then, but I knew me personally, I was studying weeks in advance, okay? Because I was like, I'm making an A, right? We take the midterm corporate finance exam, and I end up getting a 98 on that exam, right? Which blew my mind, right? I only missed one question, got a 98, probably one of the highest scores in class. Now, the Asian guy, who's also extremely smart, right? He's very smart. Again, I'm not the smartest tool in the shed. I never claimed to be, right? But this guy ended up getting like a 95 or a 96. And I will never forget this man's face when he saw that I beat him, that I got a higher score on the corporate finance. We're talking about a 400 level corporate finance class here. That I got a higher score than he did, almost a perfect score, right? The reason why that happened is not because I'm necessarily smarter than the Asian guy. Probably not. Probably way less smarter than him. I just studied harder, right? I just outworked him, right? I literally just outworked him because I was determined to get an A. And that's what it comes down to. And throughout the rest of my college career, the same thing happened. My grades directly correlated with how much I studied. My test scores directly correlated with how much I studied. If I wasn't prepared, then I didn't make a good grade. If I was prepared, then I killed it, right? It's really that simple. Same thing happened when I went to enter the workforce, okay? I had to take the Series 7 and the Series 63 to get my job, okay? These are, securities licenses. You have to take these tests and pass these tests and get these licenses in order to work in certain segments of the financial services industry, particularly when it comes to working with securities/investments. Now, my parents did not work in finance, okay? So I didn't grow up learning about stocks and bonds and mutual funds and how, finance works. I didn't grow up learning this stuff. However, I was exposed to it during an internship in which I actually, opened up a Series 7 practice test at that point, and I knew absolutely nothing. It was like reading another language, okay? However, over time, I started to keep up with the markets, to keep up with the news, to learn about stocks, to learn about bonds, mutual funds, whatever, okay, to develop a basic knowledge of this industry that I wanted to go into. And then when it came time for me to start studying for the Series 7, I actually started studying months ahead of time before the first day of work, which the first day of work was not actually work. It was actually class, because the first month or two, you actually spend time studying for the test. Okay. You get paid to study for the test. However, I wasn't going to chance it. I said, you know what? I'm going to show up on the first day of work/class ready to pass the Series 7, right? If I had to sit down and take the Series 7, the first day that I show up to work, I'm passing. Now, most students showed up to work the first day and didn't study anything, right? And you can tell the difference because I was scoring in the mid 80s, ready to pass the Series 7, okay, more than enough to pass the Series 7, while you had other students that were failing. I'm talking about they're scoring in the 30s, the 40s, okay? They didn't study at all. A lot of those students, a month later, when it came time to take the real test, they didn't pass. They failed because they did not study enough. They didn't put in the work. I put in the work before I even got into class, okay? And that's the difference. These experiences have solidified my views when it comes to these tests, and it's not the fact that tests are racist, right? Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure if you look at the demographics for the Series 7 and who passed and who fails at what rate, I'm pretty sure you're going to say the same statistics that you're going to see with any of these other tests, right? And because this is a finance test, an investments test, I'm sure the woke revolutionaries can argue it's racist. Well, black people don't grow up being exposed to investments and stuff, so it's culturally insensitive, right? I'm sure you can make that same argument. But I knew nothing, okay? However, I was determined to learn because I had the drive and the work ethic to do so. And lo and behold, again, I killed it when I actually took the test. I passed it. I got 89 on it, okay? Wasn't as high as I was, scoring on the practice test. At one point, I had studied so much, I was scoring like, in the 95, 96 on my practice test consistently, right? But when I took this Series 7, I was very nervous when I took it. Okay, I was super nervous. Honestly, I thought I failed it in the middle of the exam. But again, I had studied so much, I could have walked into that test room with a massive headache, okay, being, super nervous and just randomly clicking answers and still would have passed because my brain was literally that programmed to pass that test because I studied so much. But again, this is not what we're telling black folks, right? What we're telling black people and so-called minorities who can't pass these tests is that, well, the tests are racist. It ain't got nothing to do with you and the work that you put in, okay? Because, again, if you can't pass one of these tests, then you don't deserve to be in the industry. If you can't pass one of these basic teacher tests, which I'm pretty sure are not that hard at all, you don't deserve to be a teacher. I'm sorry. It's not that the test is racist. It's that you're not working hard enough. And if you are working hard and you still can't pass it, then just maybe you don't have the baseline intelligence needed to be a teacher. I'm sorry, right? It happens. There are some professions where it doesn't matter how hard you work, okay? Maybe you're not cut out for it, okay? Like everybody's not going to be cut out to be a mathematician, okay? Everybody's not mathematically inclined. Doesn't matter how hard they work, right? But for the most part, generally speaking, when it comes to some of these tests, if you work hard enough, most of the time you're going to pass it. Okay. But my gut feeling is that there are racial disparities because the races that are not passing the exams at the same rates as, whites or Asians, they're not putting in the same amount of work, right? They're not studying hard enough. But no. We need to lower standards for black folks, right? Lower standards. Okay. Make it seem like any black person that's in a position of prestige or power or influence or that requires academic rigor, make it seem like they didn't actually really earn it, right? They're not as qualified as their peers. That's what you're doing. It's not helping. It's not helping at all. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.